Hey everybody, how's it all going? So today we're going to fix a MacBook before the stock market bubble crashes. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to clean off my desk a little bit. We're just going to clean off the desk before the bears of March and April of 2020 begin to get their revenge. And it will be about time for those bears that bought their SPY puts to get their revenge. All right. Here we have a MacBook. Let's take a look at this MacBook and try and figure out what's wrong with it. Looks like the board's already been taken out of the case. Alright, no big deal. Doesn't look like there's any funny business here from the first look. I'm just going to unplug the SSD before we start, because the SSD has all their data. And there's no need to work on the board with the SSD in there. I see the SSD is screwed in. There's no need for that. I'll touch the desk, de-staticize myself, and get started. Looks like someone in the chat says I have a dead microphone when I clearly don't. So that's a troll. Always good to have a troll. Always good to know that there'll be somebody there to attempt to sabotage the stream when you're less than 2 minutes in. Hey. All right. So we remove the SSD, and now we can get started. So why is this MacBook in our store? Well, the first thing that I like to do, for any of you who have been watching for a while, you know that my first go-to is plugging in the USB-C amp meter to the charger, and then plugging it into the board to see how many milliamps it's taking, because that's going to tell me what's going on with the computer. As you can see, we have 5 volts at 35 milliamps. Now that's not something I've seen before. I haven't seen 35 milliamps. That's a weird, strange one. But 5 volts is very telling. What 5 volts tells me is that the chip's responsible for communicating with the charger and requesting that it gets 20 volts instead of 5 volts is probably not turning on. And one of the main reasons that this doesn't turn on is that it's not getting its PP3v3_G3 hot power rail. So we're going to try and measure and see if that's present, and I'll open up the schematic to show you why it is that that's something that I check. First thing we're going to do is try and get the multimeter on the screen. Now, we may not be able to get the multimeter on the screen. Do recall that this software is made by Paul Daniels, an agent provocateur of Rossman Repair Group for the longest time. He develops our in-house software that, yes, might as well have SolarWinds as our partner at this rate. Anyway, so what we're going to do here is we're going to open up a schematic for this board. I'm going to open up the 820-00840 schematic, and we're going to get started. So I can show you exactly why it is that I care about that main power line of PP3v3_G3 hot. So if we go over here, now let's just go over to the charging port, and I will walk you through how this works. First thing I need to do is close signal because Erica is message spamming me at the moment, and I don't want that to show up on screen. Hopefully someone can make that stop. Okay. So the first thing we do here is we go to J3300. J3300 is going to be our charging port, I believe. Am I right here or am I wrong? Let's see. J3300. Is this it? Okay, that's strange. It doesn't look like a charge port on the schematic to me. That's weird. Well, it says USB-C connector over here. So I'll just take it that they drew the port in a way that they didn't usually draw it in older drawings. So this is the USB-C charge port. And on the USB-C charge port, we're going to have things like our 20-volt line. See if I can find that on the screen over here. There's our 20 volts. Here we go. So PP20V USB-C XA. So the stuff like up here, that's going to be the 20 volts coming in from the charger. But there's also going to be communication going on, and that communication goes on some of these lines that you see here, like USB-C XA D2R, R to D, all that stuff. But you're also going to have this one line that's called CC1 or CC2 or something like that. Let's see if I can find that here. If I, you'll be able to tell if I care about the viewers or not if I edit this crap out of the stream when I post it to the main channel. If I don't edit it out, it means I don't give a crap about you guys anymore. So that, can't say I'm not honest. I'm as honest as they come. So here you go. So you have USB-C XA CC1 con coming from the charge port. Now that is going to this resistor, and this resistor is then going to the CD3215 chip. I read it the first time, Born, but I'm fixing a board right now. I'm not playing Dota. I genuinely appreciate it. Thank you very much, but I gotta fix my board. I can't think about Dota, or else I will never get anything done. So this is, yeah, I'm in low priority pool in Dota because when I was dumb enough to use Linux for gaming, it would crash. So I got called a leaver in some games. So I got to work my way up from low priority. Anyway, you also have USB XA CC2 con over here, which is another line that goes from the charge port over here along to a chip. There it then goes to the CD3215. So this CD3215 over here, this U3100, which is our USB-C controller chip, if I bring that up on the schematic, you'll see that right here. Show up, you bastard. Here we go. USB-C port controller needs to speak to the charger, and that's the way it does it. Now this chip needs to get its voltage in over here, V in 3V3, PP3V3 underscore G3 hot in order to work. And if it doesn't have its PP3V3 underscore G3 hot, it's not going to work, and the chip's not going to do its job. It's pretty much going to be like Oreo trying to catch mice. So we need to see if that power rail is present, and I'm going to guess that it's not. And if it's not present, then we got to figure out why. So let's get this on the screen. Okay, so you may notice that I am using Linux at work because this flickers on and off. You can't do screen capture without the item being in front of everything else. So apparently it doesn't render the window when it's behind other items. So if I put if anything goes on top of the multimeter window, if I don't make it always on top, even though I don't need to see it, it will just, OBS does that. It's kind of funny. Anyway, so let's just get some measurements going on here. So we're going to see if the area over here, PP3V3 underscore G3 hot, is present on the board. And let's do it. So the meter is in voltage mode. Put the black probe on ground. Put this probe over here. And we have 0 volts. So now we got to figure out why it is we're not getting PP3V3 underscore G3 hot. So we're going to go to the section where PP3V3 underscore G3 hot is made on this board, which is going to be the U6990 area. Also, interesting how they changed up the numbers for things. They see U6990 used to be used for the PP3V3 or PP3V42 underscore G3 hot creation chip on the 2012 and older machines. And in 2013 and after, I think it turned into U7090. Now they've brought back the old nomenclature of U6990 for that chip. Just kind of interesting. Completely useless sidetrack there. Anyway, so this is going to be the power supply. What this does is it turns either the battery, PP bus G3 hot, or the charger, PP3V3 underscore G3 hot, PPDCN G3 hot, into 3.3 volts. Now remember, this rail needs to be present before anything else works in the machine. It's going to be powering a lot of important systems. It's the first power rail that needs to be present, which means it needs to be there whether you're only using the battery or if the battery is dead. So if the battery's dead, it's going to be powered off the charger. If the charger's not plugged in, it's going to be powered off the battery. This is the first rail that has to get started. So it has 2 possible inputs because you could either be using the machine on battery only, or you could be using the machine when the battery is completely dead. And that is why you have 2 separate inputs. So what we're going to do here is we've already measured 0 volts over here. I'm just going to check to see if there's a short at the output, and then I'm going to go all the way back to the beginning and go back there. So what I'm going to do is check out R6999, which is right over here. That's the output. And we're going to see if we have a short circuit there, and I sincerely doubt that we do. But you never know. It doesn't usually happen. So we check that, and you'll see no short circuit, 12 kiloohms to ground. Next up is we're going to see if we're getting input. So on this circuit, the diode over here, D6905, is where we're going to be getting input. Now, I'm going to be looking for PP-DC in charger because I don't have the battery plugged in. So do we have this on R6906? Well, let's find out. So we zoom in on the board a little bit more here. I'm not using the microscope yet because I don't need to. Interestingly enough, all right, so we get 5 volts DC, but then it turns itself off. 5 volts, and then it turns itself off. Now that turning on and off and on and off is typically indicative of a short. However, if you take a look over here, you'll see that on this schematic, let's just get it over to the schematic only page. As you'll see here, my God, that is obnoxious Linux. Oh my, stop with the blinking, Jesus Christ. Can you join us here in the 21st century? Anyway, so this is not shorted. So we do not have a short circuit over here. However, this is blinking, which means it is possible that we have a short circuit over here. Thanks for deciding to stream. I'm happy about that. Thanks, Mario. I appreciate it. We'll see if it winds up being a worthwhile stream or a crappy one. Now, again, the whole power going up and down, up and down, up and down, that is indicative of perhaps a short. But again, we don't have a short circuit over here, so where could it be? Well, the only place left that I imagine where there's something going to ground is either the chip itself, U6990, C6991 going to ground, or C6990. So let's take a measure. So I'm going to go over to pin 3 of D6905 over here. We're going to click that button so that it shows up in Paul Daniels' majestically buggy software. And that shows me that that diode is going to be right up here. Right up here. Pin 3 is over there. Now, in order to make a proper measurement, we're going to unplug the charger. And we're going to check for resistance to ground over here. We check for resistance to ground. Now here we go. 166 ohms. So that's not enough that you're going to see stuff explode. But you have to keep in mind, 160 ohms to ground on a 20-volt power line? Nuh-uh. That doesn't make any sense. Now, when you have a low-voltage power line, let's say you have like a 1-volt power line, and it's powering a CPU or a GPU that's going to be using 60 or 70 or 80 watts, you're expecting there to be a low resistance to ground. If you check out anything like an Ohm's law calculator, you'll be able to see that you're expecting a low resistance to ground because it's supposed to. If you're using a lot of power at a really low voltage, that is just the way things are going to go. So let's say we go to Ohm's law calculator here, because I get this a lot. People will ask me, why isn't this a short? Or I found the short, it's CPU vCore. And it's not. So we're just going to do a browser capture here for a moment. Let's see if this winds up showing the right thing or if it winds up showing the wrong thing. Hopefully it doesn't show the wrong thing. And it shows... Here we go. Beautiful. So, Ohm's law calculator. Now, let's say that we have a 20-volt power line, and the resistance to ground is 160 ohms. That means that that's going to use 2.5 watts. Okay, now, I don't think that it really needs to be using 2.5. I don't think it needs to be using 2.5 watts when it's not actually doing anything. It's kind of weird. Anyway, let's check out what it would be. Thank you, Matthias Ackerbaum. I appreciate it very much. I want to know if there's an album that you recorded or produced back in your studio days. Nothing, no. I just recorded mostly. I got the bad sessions that other people that were actually experienced didn't want to do, but the client couldn't afford a real engineer, so they got stuck with me. I actually had a demo reel, and I found it on the hard drive that Steve recovered for me. It was a horrible demo reel. At some point, maybe if I'm done being embarrassed about it, I'll play it for you. Anyway, so let's go back to this thing. So a little clap so I know where to edit when I edit this. It's not my graphics driver, Ace. You just haven't tried it this way. You haven't tried to do what I'm doing, which is why it happens for Paul Daniels and several other people repeated it. So it's not like you're holding it wrong. There's no Apple shit here. Anyway, let's go back to this. So let's say we have a CPU. Let's say the CPU runs off of 1 volt, and let's say the CPU has, let's say, 10 ohms to ground, right? Now, when you hit the calculate button over here, you'll see that, let's remove this, 1 volt, 10 ohms, 1 volt. Huh. Something is going weird here. Okay. This is 1 volt, 20 watts. Oh, wait, never mind. I'm being an idiot. I'm failing at explaining something very basic. All right, so let's say we were to take something like a short to ground on, let's say, like when someone says there's a short to ground a CPU. Let's say the CPU runs off of 1 volt, you measure it, and you get something like 3 ohms. That's not a short, because you expect your CPU to use more than 0.3 watts. It's going to use 40 watts or something else. So let's say we were to put something like 65 watts. Let's say you have a CPU that uses 65 watts and the V-core is, I don't know, let's say 1.7 volts. You're going to have a resistance of 0.04 ohms at that point. So you're expecting it to do that. But let's say you have a 5-volt power line and you have a 1-volt short to ground. That means that 1 ohm short to ground, that means that one power line would be using 25 watts, which, it's just not going to be, there's no need for it. So you get the idea here, hopefully. Anyway, so let's see what it is that could be our problem here. I'm going to open up the microscope camera. What we're going to do is we're going to look. Hello, it's my first day at Apple is this week. I'm going to bring back repairs. Marky, if you manage to do that, I will tip my hat to you. Maybe even give you some of my BlackBerry shares. But that would be awesome. That would really make my day. Once the culture catches up and you don't really even need right to repair as a law, because the people that wind up becoming engineers and business people and so on and so forth, they see the value in repair and they don't want to be a part of anything that would take it away from normal everyday people, because they grew up around it. And that's kind of what I hope to bring back here, make all this stuff fun again. So let's see what the potential components are that could be causing our problem. So we have 150 ohms to ground, which I'm guessing is a bit much here for a 20-volt input. So what do we have? So we have C6991 over here. It could be that. It could be C6990, which is actually on the other side of the board right here, or it could be U6990, which is the chip over here. So actually this board is a trickster. So I haven't mentioned this before, but this board is actually an absolute troll, because there's another cap on that line, but it doesn't show up on this page because it's next to the ISL 9239, and this will often troll the hell out of people. It's right next to the ISL 9239. It's another cap on that rail. It's the C7078. And the best part about C7078 is that on the 15-inch schematic, the cap is actually off the screen and the line is not going to the chip. On the 13-inch, the schematic is done a little bit better than that. So let's see if any of those look overly damaged. Let's see if we can get an obvious hint before we go and just rip things off willy-nilly. So this is cap 1, and this one actually looks fine. This is cap 2, and this one also looks fine. So we're going to go over to cap 3 and see what cap 3 looks like. And cap 3 up here also looks fine. It's got a weird little line in the middle, but otherwise is Yeah, that's a troll. Okay, that's interesting. That is most certainly interesting. That's All right, so we're going to rework our theory here. All right. So perhaps it's not a short. Perhaps 150 ohms is okay. Again, we're just guessing here. I haven't even taken a board to compare with yet. The next thing I'm kind of curious about is this being told to turn on? So if you take a look, the ISL 9239 over here is supposed to be sending out PM, EN, P3V3, G3 hot, and that's supposed to be sent out to the U6990 chip as its enable, which you can see here on pin 10. I remember watching you in high school, being a sheep and wanting to design unrepairable devices and snarking at you in right to repair, and then I got my engineering degree and want to make things repairable, just because you. I don't know if that's a troll or if that's serious. If it's serious, you brought a tear to my heart. If it's a troll, well, I don't know. I'm kind of immune to them at this point. But I'll assume the best and hope that it's a good thing. I'll hope that maybe I actually changed something. Thank you. And so over here, we have PM, EN, P3V3, G3 hot. And that is going to enable this. That's going to turn this chip on the same way that I get turned on when I wake up and BlackBerry's up 25%. So this chip, U6990, it needs to be told to create the 3.3 volts. And it's going to be told to when it gets this on the enable. So that's on pin 10. So let's see if our enable is actually present, because we may not have an enable present, and that may be what's causing our problem, rather than it being an issue of there being a short. So one way to really find that out would be to measure on the board where our 6991 is, where our enable is. Marky says I'm legit. Well, if that's the case, then thank you very much. You actually just kind of made my day. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Okay. You made my day after a pretty shitty year and a series of shitty months, so thank you. Okay, let's put this back on the screen and see if we can get it to show up. Again, Linux. That's a good Linux. All right. So we check over here. And we're getting 2 volts. I think we're supposed to get like a 3 or a 5 or something like that. So that's kind of strange. Yeah, 2 volts seems low. So now I'm wondering to myself, is the problem a short circuit on the DCN, or is the problem the ISL 9239 not putting out an enable that's high enough? Because I think that's supposed to be closer to 3.5 to 5. Yeah, the DCN is being pulled down to 1 volt. So that's a big problem, as you can see. So DCN is 1 volt over there. But DCN is 5 volts over here. Okay, so check this out. So the input to the chip is being interesting. So either the diode is bad or there's a short circuit. So which do you think it is? Is 150 ohms to ground so low that it's pulling it down? Or is it the diode that's bad? Now, here's what I think. If we go to our Ohm's law calculator up here, and we just do a couple of little basic calculations, you'll see that in the Ohm's law calculator, if we have the voltage at 5, and we have the resistance at the 160 ohms that we measured before, that comes out to 0.15 watts being used. Now, I don't think 0.15 watts being used is enough to actually to destroy the system. I don't think 0.15 watts is going to drag the charger from 5 to 1. I think what's going on is it may be that this diode has died. Now, I'm tempted to believe that the diode died because there was a short to ground, but the thing is, there's the short is 160 ohms, which is just not convincing to me as something stressful enough to kill the diode. I watched your salesmanship series and it was impactful. Thanks. Oh, I'm glad. You should read that the book that I was probably riffing from at that point. It was Start With No by Jim Camp. Yeah, that guy's a genius. I'm just a dumbass who, in that series of videos, wasn't even smart enough to focus his freaking camera. Now, again, the diode died, but what I'm really curious about here is, did it die because it died, or did it die because 150 ohms is too low on the DCN? And this is where having a known good would be somewhat helpful. Again, I'm not of the mind that I should be calling 100 something that's going to take 0.2 ohms or whatever a short. But because it's easy, I'm actually going to remove everything on that line anyway, and I'm just to see what the resistance is when I'm done. So I'm going to remove the 3 caps on that section, just like that. Those 3 caps are now gone. I sincerely doubt that this U6990 is what was pulling anything down. But for the heck of it, let's take a quick measurement now that that's done and see if anything has changed. Let's see, we go back to ohms mode. Okay, so now that I've removed the caps, we have 6.5 million ohms to ground rather than 150 ohms. So here's what I think happened. I think that actually was enough to destroy the diode, which is weird because, again, if you take a look at the Ohm's Law calculator, a short of 150 ohms, 160 ohms, is going to mean that it's taking 0.15 watts, which that diode should be more than capable of being able to pass through. Also, if I raise it to 20 volts, then that diode would have 2.5 watts put through it, which, okay, maybe once it hits 20 watts, then the short would have 20 volts. Once the charger hits 20 volts, then that short might have been enough to eventually kill the diode. So that answers that. So I'm going to get myself a donor, and we are going to replace those parts. After I replace those parts, I am going to see if it works. If it works, great. And if it doesn't work, then I will put my elbow through the board, destroy it, and go off to lunch. How about that? All right. You know what? 2 strikes, you're out. First, you're saying that my mic is off, and now you're saying that just random other shit that's not true. You're out of here. All right. Does Apple get diodes from unit pack power? No, the diode is doing what it's supposed to. They're probably getting the caps from unit pack power, if I had to guess. All right. Some nice fresh solder on there. By the way, everybody, say hello to Aaron. He's a moderator that often has useful content. He's also one of the best unofficial private investigators / detectives I've ever seen on the internet. All right, next up here. BlackBerry did have a good day today, and one of the things that what I'm noticing now is that my decision to start streaming was actually one of the best things that I could have done for it. So check this out. So I started streaming around here, and now we're here. So the day was on this path, so check it out. So today we were on a path from here to boom. And then Lewis starts a board repair stream, and now it's doing this. So for any of you who are holding BlackBerry stock, you're welcome. All right, now we return to the board repair. So last thing we need to do is add some solder over here because we're going to replace this cap. Now you may ask, why did I replace all 3 caps rather than try and figure out which capacitor was shorted? Well, there is a cost to diagnosing. There's a time cost involved, and that time cost involved in figuring out which specific cap it was is a considerably higher cost than than just replacing all of them, honestly. These caps cost virtually nothing, and it's the time that matters. I got a little bit of excess solder on this fuse over here, but it's fine. No, it's not. It's fine. All right, so now I'm going to replace each one of those capacitors. And then we are going to replace the diode. If BlackBerry hits 30 this year, I will buy a BlackBerry and use it as my primary phone. I will buy a BlackBerry. I apologize to the MacBook repair god for the very mild malforming on the plastic on that connector from the hot air. I could have avoided that. It's fine. It's not enough that it's going to damage anything or like keep it from working or making contact or anything like that. I know when it's enough for that, but the guilt still gets me. Alright, let's just move this back where it's supposed to go. We're going to replace the cap, another cap, and the diode. BlackBerry is on its other leg up. Good job, BlackBerry. BlackBerry doesn't even make phones anymore. They just outsource. No, you don't understand. If the stock goes to $30, I will purchase a BlackBerry and I will use it as my daily driver. All right, next cap. I'm going to get this right over here. If your hand is shaky, when you get to the right position, push down, because pushing down will result in there being resistance against your hand, which will keep your hand from being able to shake. The more you know, the more you can compensate for your brain and your nervous system defects that keep you from being able to be a good board technician. So this cap is going to go here. We measure and see if the short is gone, and then we're done. Now, once it's done, what you can do here is you add a little bit of flux to the board. All you got to do is get it in the vicinity. And then once you've soldered in the vicinity, then the hot air will make you look like a genius. See? That's called surface tension. The magic of surface tension means that it's going to find its way in a place just like that, and it'll look like stock once it's done going through the ultrasonic cleaner, and the customer never has to know that a complete and utter spaz worked on their board. It's magic. All right. Now, we're going to rapid cool this board a little bit. Do this. A little bit of rapid cool. Rapid cool. Da, 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 da. Okay, now we plug it in and see what we get. As you can see, it's taking 600 milliamps, and it's going to settle around 550 to 560, meaning that we've completed our boot cycle, and it is now turning on. So that's about it for today. What we did to fix this board is we identified that there was a minor short circuit on the input section of the PP3P3_G3 hot creation circuit. We also noticed that that happened to damage the diode. So we removed the diode and removed the items that would have caused that potential short. I didn't remove just one item after finding the specific item that was causing the short for several reasons. The first is that it is actually quicker for me to replace all three caps than for me to figure out which one it is. The second is that with a short circuit of 160 ohms, that it's not going to present itself very obviously, meaning it's probably going to require a thermal camera and waste a good portion of my time. If I have to actually get out of the chair to pick up the thermal camera and bring it to the desk, that's a gigantic waste of time, carbohydrates, and calories that I just, at my advanced age at this point, I don't feel like wasting. So we removed those three caps. We measured. We went from 160 ohms to about 5 million ohms, which meant that was indeed a short. And then I replaced the diode behind it that, if it wasn't dead from dragging 2.5 watts through it, probably would have been dead soon thereafter, causing the customer to return for warranty and be mad that it wasn't fixed right the first time. Now that that's done, it boots up. This board is going to get cleaned up, ultrasonic, taken off to the testing people. They're going to test it, reassemble it, well, not in that order, and then bill the customer. That's it for today. And as always, I hope you learned something. I'll see you all in the next video. Bye now. And cut. And cut. Oh, there's no crack. People say that all the time. The component is like they see a hair on the screen or like a minor scratch on a chip and they say it's cracked. It is not cracked. It is not cracked. Okay. So, what do we do now? Suppose I should edit that video. Do some management. We are going to do some management. I hate management. Yeah, management is, oh my God. Look at this shit go. Go. Run, BlackBerry, run! Oh, man. Come on, you fuck. I don't want to have to fix boards anymore. Moon, you bitch. Moon! Go, mofo, go! Yes! Pump! Pump! Rocket ship emojis. You know what this stream needs? It needs more rocket ship emojis. I'm going to post a bunch of rocket ship emojis in the chat. I think that'll do it. What is the line like for repairs and data recovery? For repairs, it's okay. For data recovery, about that. Yeah, until I can get the 3 new people trained and up to speed, I have stopped taking in data recovery altogether. For cell phones, it's fine. For hard drives and SSDs, that until I get 3 more people trained and up to speed, I am not taking in anymore. But yeah, let's see. Go BlackBerry. Then again, you know, BlackBerry it's 100, maybe nobody here has to work anymore. I don't know. We'll see. To the moon! I've been very careful with this. I actually sold out of just about everything that I own besides this. Like I'm just keeping this because it's a meme at this point. But I am very confident that the market is going to crash at just about any moment now. Like normal people are figuring out about this stuff. You know, Wall Street Bets is making it to the front page of Bloomberg and you know, they're writing about it in the New York Times and shit. So that means that this is about to be over. You have all these people that are talking about putting their investment savings, they're putting their they're doing reverse mortgages on their house, or they're selling their car, or they're taking out loans on their credit cards to buy stock and shit. That's how you know this shit is coming to an end. The way you know that this is coming to an end is that there's not going to be anybody's money left. So the whole idea here is you want to get in before somebody else gets in. You want to get in, and then when the bubble bursts, you're going to sell, right? You want to sell so that you don't get stuck holding the bag. The problem is once there's nobody's money left to buy in, then it's just free fall and crash. And and that's how you can tell when you see normal, average, everyday people think this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. So the only way I can take advantage of it is by buying as much shit as humanly possible right now. And if I don't buy as much as humanly possible right now, I will miss out for the rest of my life. Then you know that there's not going to be anybody to sell to. And once you have nobody left to sell to, it's gone. And I think that we've reached that point. To be clear, I'm not a financial analyst. I am not a professional investor. I'm not licensed or bonded in any of that crap. I'm just a random dude. So at this point, I have sold out of every security that I hold, except for like a few shares of ICLN and just a little bit. I invested some stuff into BlackBerry just because, well, again, this is a once in a lifetime meme run. But other than that, I sold out of everything. Like, you know, this Peter Schiff has this good saying. He says that when the only way that you could avoid being a bag holder is to be willing to leave before the party is over. So, and that's hard because you see your friends having fun, you see the hot girls are still there, they're still flirting with you. But if you can't leave once the police arrive, because once the police arrive, you're all busted. It's not like you're going to ride one out the window. There's going to be a SWAT team coming in after you. If you leave the party 40 minutes before the police arrive, you may miss out on getting, you know, Christina Hendricks or Christy Brinkley's phone number, but you also won't be in prison. And you're going to be kicking yourself for not getting Christina Hendricks' phone number all the way up until the point that you realize if I had stayed at the party, I'd have been in prison. So you're going to look and go, damn, I could have made $1,000. I could have made $2,000. I could have made $5,000. Damn it. But a year from now, when you look back and go, I would have lost $300,000 if I stayed in there. That's at the point at which you say, fuck that. You'll be happy. The later you will be happy. And I think when you see, like, so many normal, average, everyday people that have never had a brokerage account. Like, I'm seeing comments on these websites where people are saying, help, I tried to buy a stock and it's not letting me buy. It just sits there. And then go, what time did you buy? 8 a.m. Do you have a pre-market trading account? I don't know what that is. It's like, oh, dude, it's over. There's nobody left. The only money that is not in the market at this point are people that have no idea what the fuck they're doing, that clearly have put out reverse mortgages on their house or all sorts of other crazy ass shit, and that's gonna go so bad. Anyway, kind of curious what you guys think. How much did you spend investing? Some things I do not feel like making public. What about guys holding millions in GME? I own 1 share of GME. I own 1 share of GME for the meme value. Solely for the meme value. That's it. Nothing else. Just so that I could say, you know, when I'm a grandpa talking to my great grandkids, that at this point in time, I was a part of history. Otherwise, get the fuck out of here. I'm not investing in fucking GameStop. I've largely diversified into less risky positions with my 401k, but my time horizon is 20 plus years. What do you consider a less risky position? Like, are you looking at stuff like the MCSI or, you know, diversify or emerging markets index or something like that, or? Bonds? Bonds are weird. It's like, I'm going to give you $1 now, and then 30 years from now, maybe I'll get back like $1.03 or whatever. What are interest rates now? So if you give the United States government $1 now, how much money will you have 30 years from now? I'm curious. $1.06 or $1.06.5? That seems like a